Big signings, massive expectations, and maybe even Arteta's last chance to finally deliver the Premier League. But after that first game against Manchester United, yeah, I've got some concerns. Sure, Calafiori scored the winner and Arsenal walked away with 3 points, but let's not lie to ourselves. Aside from that goal, Arsenal looked flat. What are the problems, and how can they be addressed? Let's talk about it. So let's talk about that United game. On paper, it looks fine. Arsenal got the win, 1-0, thanks to a Calafiori goal. 3 points in the bag, clean sheet, job done, right? But if you watched the game, you'd know it wasn't that simple. The performance was flat, disjointed, and honestly kind of worrying. For most of the first half, Arsenal barely created anything. They had the ball, sure, but it felt like they didn't know what to do with it. United weren't even that good, but Arsenal made them look comfortable. The pressing wasn't sharp, the build-up was predictable, and the only difference maker was Calafiori popping up with that goal. And here's the problem. This isn't just about one scrappy performance. If you want to win the Premier League, you can't play like that. City doesn't give you those margins. Liverpool doesn't give you those margins. You need to impose yourself, dominate games, and make it clear that you're in control. Arsenal didn't do that. They look like a team still figuring things out, and that's the last thing you want to see at the start of such a high-pressure season. That United game showed us something important. Arteta might have more problems to solve than we thought. And the first one, it's sitting right on that left-hand side of the pitch. And let's just say it straight, Martinelli was poor. He was almost completely out of the game. When he got the ball, there was no spark, no real threat, and honestly, you just didn't expect anything to happen. Dalot had him locked up the entire match, and that's painful to admit because Martinelli is supposed to be one of Arsenal's most dangerous outlets. The problem with Martinelli is his inconsistency. When he's good, he's unplayable, running at defenders, scoring, creating chances. But when he's bad, he disappears for weeks, and that's exactly what happened against Arsenal. And this isn't a one-off either, it's becoming a pattern. Arteta saw it too because he ended up taking him off. But then came another issue, the substitution. He brought on Noni Madueke, and let's be honest, that didn't make things better. Madueke isn't a left winger, he's already hit and miss on the right, and sticking him on the left just made things worse. What you noticed was him spending more time tracking back defensively, covering runs, which was helpful in some moments, but it killed Arsenal's attacking shape. On counters, he was often out of position and had to sprint into massive gaps. That meant Arsenal were toothless down that side. And here's the bigger issue. If your left winger isn't functioning, everything gets funneled to the other side of the pitch. Arsenal became predictable, easier to defend, and United took advantage of that. After that United game, Arsenal's second test came against Leeds. And on paper, it looked like the perfect response. A 5-0 win, dominant scoreline, clean sheet, everyone smiling. But if we're being honest, I wasn't too surprised. Leeds are newly promoted, still trying to adapt to the speed and quality of the Premier League, and Arsenal did exactly what you'd expect a title challenger to do, take them apart. It was a good performance, sure, but it didn't really answer the big questions we had after that flat display against United. The real test came the following week against Liverpool, and that game, more than any other so far, showed us where Arsenal really are. A 1-0 loss might not sound catastrophic, but the performance told a bigger story. Arsenal struggled to create clear chances. They were second best in midfield, and once Liverpool took control, Arsenal never really looked like getting back into it. And that's the problem. If you're serious about winning the league, you can't just look good against newly promoted teams. You have to go toe-to-toe with your direct rivals. Against Liverpool, Arsenal didn't look ready. They didn't look sharp enough or confident enough to impose themselves in the kind of match that will ultimately decide who wins the title. So with 3 games gone, we've seen both sides of Arsenal. The flat performance against United, the expected hammering of Leeds, and then the reality check at Anfield. And if there's one area where the problems are most obvious, it's on that left-hand side. That's why this left side problem can't be ignored. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why Arsenal went and signed Eberechi Eze. And that's where things start to get interesting. Because after watching Martinelli struggle and then seeing Madueke thrown out of position, it makes sense why Arsenal went out and got him. I mean, I know it was the Havertz injury that caused them buying, but that changes things. On the surface, people might question it. Why bring in a number 10 when you already have Ødegaard? But the thing is, Eze isn't just a 10. He's versatile, and that's exactly why he could solve Arsenal's left side problem. First of all, let's clear this up. Eze has played on the left plenty of times. He's made 38 appearances there with 8 goals and 7 assists. Those numbers don't scream world class, but context matters. A lot of those games, he wasn't starting, and many of his minutes came as cameos. But what stands out is his profile. He's an output winger. Unlike Martinelli, who thrives on chaos, speed and space, Eze thrives on control. He can carry the ball, he can beat players in tight areas, and most importantly, he can consistently create shots or chances. When you watch Eze, his ball carrying is smooth, almost effortless. He doesn't panic when pressed. He'll glide past a challenge, drive forward, and open up angles for either himself or his teammates. And that's exactly what Arsenal have been missing on the left. Someone who can actually create, instead of just waiting for space behind the fullback. What I like about Eze on that left wing is the new dynamic it gives Arsenal. You can suddenly play him through in the middle of the pitch because he's comfortable drifting inside, or you can hit him with a long ball out wide, knowing he's capable of turning that into an actual attacking chance. He offers variation, and that's huge. And the biggest winner from this? Viktor Gyökeres. Because when you've got an output winger like Eze, your striker doesn't feel isolated. Gyokeres now has someone who can feed him inside the box, drag defenders out of shape, and even take the pressure off Nørgaard to do all the creative work. And that balance is what Arsenal need if they're serious about winning the league. And the best part is, Eze isn't just limited to the wing. In some games, Arteta can switch it up and play him as a number 10, giving Nørgaard a breather or allowing the team to try a different shape. And this is what really pissed me off against Liverpool. He put Eze on the bench and played Merino as the 10. And guess what? Merino played over 70 minutes. I mean, Eze proved himself enough with Crystal Palace. He should at least get 45 minutes. Or he can slot into the left side of a midfield 3, where his ball carrying adds another layer to Arsenal's build-up. That kind of flexibility is priceless, especially in a long season where you need to adapt against different opponents. So yes, Martinelli might still have a role, but with Eze in the squad, Arsenal finally have someone who can change the whole attacking dynamic on that left-hand side. And that's something they desperately needed after that United game. But here's the thing, even with Eze in the picture, Arsenal still have another issue, and it's right up front with their new striker, Viktor Gyökeres. Arsenal spent big to get him, and we all know why. They needed a proper number 9, someone who could lead the line and give them that killer edge. But against United, you could already see that the adjustment period is going to be tough. The first thing that stood out was how isolated he looks. Arteta's system demands a lot from a striker. It's not just about scoring goals, it's about linking play, pressing, and being that focal point in the build-up. And right now, Gyokeres isn't quite there yet. You could see it in moments versus United, where he looked nervous. That cross he tried from the right-hand side that ended up going out for a throw-in, that's not just a technical mistake. It's nerves. It's the player still trying to settle into the rhythm of the team. When Havertz came on against Man United, the contrast was obvious. Suddenly, the attack flowed better, not because Havertz is miles ahead of Gyokeres in quality, but because he's been in this system longer. He knows when to drop deep, when to hold his position, and how to link with Nørgaard and Saka. Gyokeres will get there, but right now, it's clear he needs to calm his game down and adapt to the demands of playing under Arteta. Then there's the physical side of things. The Premier League is brutal for strikers. You're not just judged by your finishing, you're judged by how you hold up against defenders who are stronger, faster, and more aggressive. Against United, Gyokeres lost way too many duels to De Ligt, and once that pattern was set, United knew they could bully him out of the game. In the game against Liverpool also, Van Dijk especially kept him very quiet, and this made Arsenal lose their focal point up top. This is where he has to take a step up. Building upper body strength is essential. Look at the best strikers in the league. Haaland is the perfect example. He's not just a finisher, he's physically dominant. Defenders bounce off him, and that makes a massive difference. Gyokeres has the frame, but he needs to use it better. He needs to make defenders feel his presence, not the other way around. Heading is another area he has to improve. Arsenal will create plenty of chances from wide areas, and if Gyokeres isn't converting crosses, then the whole system loses an important weapon. In the Premier League, being strong in the air is almost non-negotiable for a striker. If he sharpens that part of his game, suddenly he becomes a much bigger problem for defenders. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all doom and gloom. He's got the instincts, he works hard, and once he finds his confidence, I think he'll be fine. But right now, his struggles are a big reason why Arsenal looks so blunt against United. And until he finds his rhythm, Arsenal's attack will keep stalling. But even beyond the striker position, there's another area of the pitch where Arsenal look uncertain, and that's in midfield. Against United, Declan Rice was solid, but I still don't understand why Arteta keeps pushing him so high up the pitch. It feels like he's being used almost as a second number 10, and that takes away from what makes him so effective. At West Ham, yes, he made those forward runs, but his main strength was balance, knowing when to break play, when to carry the ball, and when to recycle possession. At Arsenal, when he's too advanced, the team loses that security in transition. In the game versus Liverpool, the midfield was literally being skinned by Gravenberch, and that's really bad. The bigger issue is that Arsenal doesn't have a fully settled defensive midfielder yet. Zubimendi has been brought in for that role and he's talented, but the Premier League is a different beast. You could see in the United game how he gave away some unnecessary fouls in dangerous areas, and that's the kind of thing that can cost you badly against teams who are clinical from set pieces. We all saw what happened last season. Arsenal dropped points in games they shouldn't have, often because they lost control in the middle of the pitch. To be fair, Zubimendi needs time. Even Rodri, who's now the best defensive midfielder in the world, struggled in his first season. He was committing fouls, getting caught out of possession, and only after a year did he start dictating games with authority. The same patience will be needed with Zubimendi, but in the meantime, Arteta has to be careful. Throwing him straight into every game could do more harm than good. This is where a player like Christian Nørgaard could come in handy. He's experienced, physical, and understands the defensive side of the game better than most. In matches against teams like City or Liverpool, where you know you'll be under pressure, having someone like Nørgaard anchoring the midfield could be a safer bet. It would allow Rice to play his natural box-to-box role, where he can still contribute going forward, but without leaving the team exposed. Because here's the truth, Arsenal's midfield is stacked with quality, but the balance isn't right yet. Too often Rice is too high, Zubimendi is still adapting, and Ødegaard ends up having to do too much in possession. That lack of cohesion makes the whole team look less fluid. Until Arteta figures out how to get the best out of all three roles, the defensive anchor, the box-to-box, and the creative 10, Arsenal will struggle against the top sides. And that midfield uncertainty just adds to the list of problems Arsenal showed in that first game. But here's the thing, it's only the start of the season, and maybe, just maybe, it's nothing more than first game syndrome. So where does all this leave Arsenal? On one hand, it's easy to overreact after the first game of the season. Teams are still finding rhythm, players are still shaking off the rust, and sometimes a scrappy 1-0 win is just that, a win. But on the other hand, the concerns are very real. But here's the positive side. These issues are fixable. Eze can change the dynamic on the left. Gyokeres can settle with time and confidence. Zubimendi can grow into the league. And Arteta has shown before that he can make adjustments mid-season that push Arsenal forward. So maybe it was just first game syndrome. Maybe Arsenal will look sharper, more fluid, and more dangerous as the weeks go by. But one thing is clear. If Arteta doesn't sort these problems out fast, this could be the season where almost once again becomes the Arsenal story. But what do you think? Can Arteta fix those issues? Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our last video on the Arsenal 2026 squad being crazy scary. Thank you.